Is product more art and science, and where do you sit on this debate?
Yeah, I love this question because I think you kind of have to get one thing out of the way, which is product can't possibly be all art or just all science, right? If product was only art, it would just be art. And if it were just science, it would just be science. But it's not. It's something different. And, frankly, I think we can both agree it's something that's more exciting. And I think my answer probably would surprise a lot of people who work with me because of how much I champion the importance of intuition and creativity within the product and design process. But I would say that's actually more science, and maybe not for the reasons you might think, but because I think it actually, the process of design and product resembles the scientific process far more than it resembles the artistic process. And I can get concrete there, right? The scientific method is you make an observation, something that's happening out in the world, and you form a hypothesis about what's happening. And then you create some experiments to test that hypothesis, and then you iterate until you feel like you've uncovered what's going on. Now, the design thinking process, which, I use interchangeably with the product process, again, coming from design, I kind of view everything through that lens, is very similar. Instead of making an observation, you define a problem, right? You observe a problem that's happening, something that people are dealing with that's making their life less than ideal in some small or major way. You form a hypothesis about how to solve that problem. You build a prototype to test that hypothesis with real people, and then you iterate. And so ultimately, what's the difference between the scientific method and, the design thinking process is that design thinking starts out with a problem and it ends with a new solution. Whereas the scientific method starts out with a question or an observation and it hopes to end with a new understanding. And so product is really like this adaptation of the scientific method that's used to solve a problem by creating something new, not just to understand why something's happening in the first place. And so that's the way I see there's the scientific part of it, because it's like the process of the scientific method. But the difference, that ability to create something net new, that's where the art comes in. Because like art, when you're creating something, you have to do so through the filter of the human mind. And to do that well, you need to use imagination, you need to use creativity, you need to have a cultural understanding. And that's the art. So I don't know, like 80-20.
Is that what Jeremy meant when he said to me about your approach to creating a repeatable process for product innovation?
I think that is probably what he was referring to, yes. And I think, we can get a little bit more specific on that, which is there are certain elements to that process that are really important to define, because there are things that can allow that process to be very successful, and there are things that can hold that process back. And I think the first thing to really think about an ingredient for success here is you kind of have to take a step back and you have to think about what is creativity in the first place, because having a creative organization is table stakes for this repeatable process of innovation actually working. And, somebody probably from some dictionary somewhere is going to come out and tell me that this is not the definition of creativity, but this is how I've always defined it, which is taking two distinct ideas and merging them together into something new. That is creativity in a nutshell. No idea comes out of thin air. They're all built on different ideas. But what creates something novel is actually bringing these disparate ideas together. And so that's kind of like the foundation on which this entire system sits. But what's interesting is, what is the best way to create an environment where you have a bunch of, unique ideas coming together? And that's where the importance of having a really diverse workplace comes in, because you are much more likely to get different ideas merging together if you have people with different lived experiences collaborating. And so ultimately, in order to set up this process for repeatable innovation, you have to have creativity. And to have creativity, you have to have diversity of thought. And you have to encourage that, and you have to embrace it. And so that's the foundation from which this process, really sits atop.
How does idea submission work internally? I have Gustav, the CPO at Spotify, on the show, and he said, talk is cheap. so we should do more of it, which I thought was quite an interesting statement. How do you think about like idea generation and submission internally to ensure that you hear the best ideas?
Yeah, I actually really like that. The idea that talk is cheap. I think I would add maybe a caveat to that, which is talk is cheap if you set up an environment where it feels that way. Because talk can be very expensive, or it can take a toll if you don't feel like you're in an environment where it's safe to talk. And so, maybe another fundamental ingredient of creating creative culture is creating psychological safety, right? If you feel like if you make a mistake or you have an idea that's, somebody's had a million times or somebody else thinks is bad, you're not going to share that. And if you're not sharing that, we're not going to have as many ideas to choose from. And ultimately, the idea we pursue is only as good as the number of ideas we've had to choose from. And now it can be difficult to choose the right idea to go pursue, right? And that's where a lot of this process comes into play. But ultimately, the more ideas you have up front, the more likely you are to find a gem. And so I think it is really critical that you are encouraging that within, the environment and making people feel really safe.
How do you literally do that, Jack? I love the idea of psychological safety. Nicely said, hard to do. How does one do that?
I think it's all about behaviors. I mean, you have to model it from the top and you have to encourage it all the way down. And so you have to reward people, right? When somebody brings an idea to the table, you have to thank them for that idea. When somebody says something that goes against the grain and that it probably took a little bit of courage to say that thing, you have to reward them for it. And you have to do that publicly. And you have to do it yourself. One of my favorite things to do when I'm offering up an idea to a team is to preface it with the fact that, hey, this is a stupid idea. Because that just helps everybody realize that it's okay to share stupid ideas. And when other people are doing that, you just gotta give it room to breathe. And so I think there's no better way to create a culture of psychological safety than to make sure that you are rewarding people when they're taking risks. And you're doing that in a way that's public so other people see that it's okay.
When you think about the options that you have in front of you with ideas coming in, how do you think about a framework for prioritization when there's 3 that you could choose, but resource constraints mean that you can only do 1? Is it like upside planning? Is it ease of execution? What is the fact that determines your choice?
It's a combination of all of these things, right? Like I would actually put a lot of this, I would kind of bucket it into 3 different areas. One is, what is the potential impact, right? What is the opportunity size of doing this idea? 2 is, what is the cost? What is the engineering cost? How much time will it take? How many resources to make it successful? And then there's this 3rd bucket, which, is kind of the art part of this whole thing, which is, what is your gut instinct into how important this is for our long-term vision or how much people are going to like it? And that's a little bit of instinct. And so you have these 3 buckets, and then you basically...
Can I add one?
Yeah,
one?
please.
Probability of outcome and execution. Like if it's a 95% that you will be able to do it versus a 3% flyer, it would also change decision-making processes.
I think that's exactly right. And I think a lot of that comes out in the cost to build it, right? That can help you understand, it's not just about, how long is it going to take? It's about the opportunity cost, right? If we spend 3 months trying this and we can't get it out the door, then, that's 3 months wasted. And so you've got those 3 buckets and you have to apply relative weighting to them, right? High, medium, low impact, high, medium, low cost, high, medium, low gut feel. If something's high impact, low cost, high gut feel, build it yesterday. If it's, low impact, high cost, forget about it. If it's somewhere in the middle, if I had a perfect answer for you, I'd spend, half the amount of time at work. That's the hard part.